the general working population going to offices. I think there's going to be a hybrid environment, and you always have to be considerate of how do I enable my remote staff to be as productive as possible.
Well, hello, my name's Clark Neuhoff, and I'm a certified EOS implementer serving the Chicago and surrounding markets. And I'm here today with my really good friend, Adam Radulovic. He's the founder of Excel.net, which is a client of mine going back about 7 years when we first met. Has been running and growing an amazing company. Adam and I share a passion for entrepreneurs. That's the market they serve, small and mid-market businesses. And with just everything going on today in the world of running a company remotely, on the job, in the cloud, I've just asked Adam to come and share some things that he's learned that entrepreneurs should know. And we'd just love to hear a little bit about his entrepreneurial story as well. Adam, thanks so much for taking a few minutes this morning to spend with me.
My pleasure. Thank you, Clark, for inviting me.
So first, okay, everybody's working from home. You know, the fact that we're having this conversation on Zoom just goes to the fact that this technology is ubiquitous and it's a wonderful thing. But obviously business owners and leaders have been hit with all sorts of stuff in the last year that they've had to become good at. And so if you could just kind of go down, you know, what do we need to be thinking about? What are there security risks? Are there ways to make this easier? Are there ways to help employees be more effective and productive? But just, you know, in a few minutes here, give us the things that we really need to know that some people may just not have uncovered yet.
No, absolutely. So I think when initially in March, you know, we're all thrust into this need to work from home. Few people planned for it. So we did what we could. People ran home. They used home devices. We're set up in kitchens with gardening outside and home projects and kids and pets running around. And it stayed that way for a number of months as we all thought, well, just a couple more weeks, weeks.
Right.
And now we're 9 months into it. And I think it's time to reevaluate how we're working from home. I think a lot of folks are still using personal devices, whether it's computers or printers. They're not relying on the type of setup they had their offices, unreliable internet connectivity or unreliable Wi-Fi. I still get on Zoom meetings where somebody's getting disconnected or they're doing the, you know, cutting in and out of calls. IT for the most part is not managing those environments. They tend to not be locked down and secured. And working on those devices for IT and for the company becomes a liability. Think of a case where your internal IT firm or department is working on a personal workstation and unexpectedly that workstation crashes with all the family pictures for the last decade being lost. Right? So there's a lot of things that weren't thought of, right, understandably so at the beginning, that we should go back and kind of revisit. I'd start with a policy, you know, an internal policy of working from home, and have that policy talk about what are the requirements for the workspace, the type of internet service, security requirements, sound requirements. Make a decision on what are personally owned devices and how they impact the work from home environment, or what should be work owned. And we would absolutely argue that most of the computing equipment should be work owned because you need IT to manage it and not to be concerned about the loss of personal data. The hackers were also equally opportunistic with the pandemic. When they saw so many people shift for the first time to work from home, they realized there'd be a point of entry. And so they've exploited, and a couple 100% increase of attacks have been happening since March because they know these devices aren't protected. Typically, they're set up to remotely connect to your office, and allowing them to enter now into your office in a place that's not secured, an opportunity to hold people ransom, steal their data. So that's absolutely a consideration that you need to have. Simple stuff, the type of lighting you have, because most of us are on Zoom meetings now, the camera, the quality of the camera, the microphone that you use, and probably even more important, that I see shifting slowly, is now the expectation, if you're working from home for internal and external meetings, how should you run them?
Mhm.
For example, since we're lacking a lot of that physical connection, whether internally or externally, should we even do phone calls anymore? Or should you require that all communication that's happening no longer is phone based, but is video based to bridge that gap?
Have people kind of taken a breath and now saying, okay, we need to take a look at this? Or is the mood still kind of running 100 miles an hour, just trying to keep up? I mean, are people at a point where they're starting to, put some thought into it?
I've seen people be at the very beginning of that.
Right.
Initially, it was, well, this is going to be temporary. And after about 5, 6 months, that temporary feeling went away and they started surveying their staff to understand what is the work environment for our staff at home and to begin addressing those needs. Now, with the announcement of some potential vaccines, I think it's put it back into that, well, it's still temporary.
Hmm.
But what I think some people have not realized is that many of their staff enjoy working from home, are more productive that way, and they're going to want to continue it even if there is a vaccine.
Right.
So I don't
Right.
think we're ever going back to the general working population going to offices. I think there's going to be a hybrid environment, and you always have to be considerate of how do I enable my remote staff to be as productive as possible.
So, what are the things as we look ahead? Okay, we've gone through a ton of acceleration in the last 9 months, but what are some things that companies really should be thinking about in their IT plan? And in fact, if they don't even have an IT plan, where do they start?
I'd start with a plan, right? Defeat that blank page, following the EOS terminology. If you put together a departmental vision traction organizer for
Okay.
the technology department for 2021, that would be a great starting point. And I can lay out some ways to make that simpler.
Okay.
Most small, medium businesses don't have a full technology department, so they rely on a combination of internal staff, internal champions, and external vendors. So you probably have to do a little bit uniquely compared to maybe other departments that you have all internal staff. So we call it the technology alignment plan. And to get it started, interview every leadership team member. It's about 30 minutes and get understanding where their department is looking to go. What's their vision for the next 12 months? What are some obstacles they see today in getting them there? Some risks that they see along the way, and what their key metrics are. And then ask what's working well in IT, not working well, and missing from IT. As you interview the full leadership team, you're gathering all this data. It's going to produce somewhere around 15, 16 pages of raw data. You take it and distill it down to that departmental IT vision traction organizer that sets 3 to 5 annual goals, 3 to 5 next immediate quarter rocks, and an open issues list of things to be considered in the future. Step 2, put together a technology committee. It's going to sound daunting. It's not. From every department, you're going to need one champion, one member. The accountability for that member is one, they're the voice of their department for the needs to the technology committee. And two, they're the champion of the technology changes that are bound to happen back to their department. And what this will allow is for technology changes to more rapidly get adopted across your departments instead of being siloed and a slow process that gets deployed from a single department with one vision and missing the mark.
I was just going to say, what is the biggest hurdle to companies to engage in this, to do this work?
I think it's been mostly awareness, right? Even just thinking, why would I want to have an IT plan? We've noticed almost 100% with small, medium businesses. You have a leadership team that's focused on the business and looking to move forward. And then separately here in the background is the technology department that's working on technology and telling the business, hey, we need money for security issues. We need money to upgrade the hardware, but the two are never on the same page. And just that realization that you have something that's so critical in your business, yet it's not on the same page with the planning you're doing for your business, I think has been the insight. And I've seen the companies that we talk to, once they see the insight, across the board, the majority of them go through and put together a plan.
As a business owner, entrepreneur, you're in this space. What's your perspective? What's your outlook going forward?
I think we're really fortunate with business-wise with the position we're in, because we're so easily able to work remotely. And technology was by many used as that tool to help them get through it. So 2020 was, all things considering, a good year for us. I think the next year is going to be even better, because now people are aware of what technology could potentially do in areas of their business. And they've been considerably more open in utilizing technology and helping them achieve their goals faster and more efficiently.
Adam, thanks so much for your time. Always great to be with you.
Thank you for having me, Clark.